For our education and film final project, Eric Jensen, Matt Berdel, and myself, Adin Bohmiller, will be exploring the dominant and counter narratives, and more specifically, the importance of the counter narrative in high school films. For the dominant narrative in urban high school settings, white teachers are often depicted as the saviors. These narratives often place inexperienced and underqualified teachers into difficult classroom settings to essentially save the students in their class. Urban high school films often depict that the problem with unsuccessful students is that they do not want to be successful. This ideology doesn't take into account the systemic racism that exists and the barriers that exist that prevent social upward mobility. Bowman describes that explaining poverty as a result of individual failure helps to relieve the suburban middle class and upper middle class of its share of responsibility for having politically and economically neglected the inner city. Oftentimes, the controlling interest in media outlets propagates a lifestyle that the middle class desires. They use the idea of a meritocracy to illustrate that hard work leads to success in life. As shown in Mean Girls, Katie barely has to do work but succeeds on the basis of being in the white middle class. Counter-narratives in high school films represent the story that is mostly overlooked and rarely told. In the suburban high school genre, teenagers are generally depicted as being accepted for just being themselves, but in the counter-narrative, they would be rejected for showing expressive individualism. Counter-narratives are important to give a voice to everyone. It gives perspective to a fuller range of experience and helps to dismantle horrible stereotypes most present in our society. As Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie says in her TED Talk, stories have been used to dispossess and malign, but stories can also be used to empower and to humanize. Stories can break the dignity of a people, but stories can also repair that broken dignity.
Dominant traits can be noticed in Mean Girls, as women are often portrayed as more dependent and less intelligent than men, because Katie acts as though she struggles with math to get the attention and assistance of her love interest, Aaron, even though it was shown that she was really good at the subject. Unlike in urban high school films, suburban high school films tend to have students that don't seem to care about learning or academic achievement. Suburban films are filled with middle-class individuals who just need to remain mediocre but still have the chance to get into college. This matters to those less privileged, as those students of lower class are afforded less opportunities, and those of higher privilege often take fortunes for granted. In the following video, systemic racism is present in the school system because the teacher assumes the nationality of a student based off of skin color.
Is everything all right in here?
Oh, yeah.
So, how was your summer?
I got divorced.
Oh. My carpal tunnel came back.
I win.
Yes, you do. Well, I just wanted to let everyone know that we have a new student joining us. She just moved here all the way from Africa.
Welcome.
I'm from Michigan.
Great.
Her name is Caddy Heron. Where are you, Caddy?
That's me. It's pronounced like Katie.
My apologies. I have a nephew named Anthony, and I know how mad he gets when I call him Anthony. Almost as mad as I get when I think about the fact that my sister named him Anthony.
Well, welcome, Katie, and thank you, Mr. Duvall.
Well, thank you. And
Throughout The Breakfast Club, many characteristics of socialization are present, as all the teenagers explain to one another how their parents, who can be described as authoritative figures, force them to act a certain way or attempt specific actions. One of the boy's fathers pushes his son to wrestle and remain a tough kid, which can be classified as gender socialization for a man, even though he has wanted to quit for a while now. Also, another teenage boy's mother pressures him to get straight A's in school, which can be analyzed as receiving high academic achievement. The film provides a good example by teaching its audience that gendered scripts of men are considered to be more intelligent when compared to women when taking into account society norms. Both of these movies display the dominant narrative of love interest, as the two girls in The Breakfast Club and Katie in Mean Girls end up developing a romantic relationship with a male character.
Pariah is another representation of a suburban high school film that displays actions of adult authorities and gender socialization. This can be represented when Alike's mother, Audrey, forces her to wear certain clothes and hang out only with friends of her choosing. Alike's sexual orientation is represented in the film through the use of baggy clothes, which in society is a stereotype of lesbians. Audrey is using her authority to alter her child's expressive individualism to become more like a normal female. The suspicions of her daughter's sexuality were coming into question, and she wanted to take over more control of her life. This makes a difference because if society continues to make it more difficult for people to be comfortable with their sexual orientation, there will become less trust between individuals and more issues will continue to occur. The need to include more social and racial classes in film is because of film's ability to teach empathy. The plot in Pariah can be viewed as a counter-narrative, as it describes a less powerful social group and challenges the dominant ideology of females being dependent and frightened. Alike stood up to her parents when she came out and became more independent when she decided to leave home for college in California. Walkout is a film that provides the counter-narrative where the teacher, Mr. Castro, along with his students, are primarily Mexican American. The students in this film were not allowed to be in the school building or use the bathrooms during lunch, as the school administrators did not trust them due to their culture. This is another example of cultural discrimination and proves that the problem is in the system. An advisor recommended menial jobs, such as a secretary or car mechanic, to students of low academic achievement to focus the school's resources on sending only the truly gifted students to college. This is another example of an unequal education, as school officials did not provide students the opportunity to pursue any career choice, providing another reason why walkout was enacted. This film showed the ideology of meritocracy, that if the person works hard enough, they can succeed, but the individuals relied on each other, which represents community. This matters because it devalues the accomplishments people have worked towards.